So we're going to talk about special right triangles. And there's two types, 45, 45, 90 and 30, 60, 90. So 45, 45, 90 is talking about these degrees here. So there's your right angle, there's your 45 degrees, there's your other 45 degrees. Now think about this in terms of isosceles triangles. If the base angles are the same, then you'll automatically know that the two legs are the same as well, they're congruent. So if these two are both 45, then these two sides have to be the same, whatever they are. So for example, x and x. Now, what I'm showing you here are shortcuts. If I have a 45, 45, 90, x and x, that hypotenuse will always be x root 2. For 30, 60, 90, notice that you have definitely a short side opposite the 30-degree angle. You have a medium length side opposite the 60, then your hypotenuse is that longest side always across from the 90. And again, here are the shortcuts for 30, 60, 90. When we do this, assume the shortest side, the one opposite the 30 degrees, is x. To get to the medium side, take whatever x is and multiply by root 3, square root of 3. To get the hypotenuse, do x times 2. So 2x is that longest side, that hypotenuse. So again, these are shortcuts. They make it a lot easier when you're trying to solve problems with these special types of triangles. However, you can always use the regular trig from the previous lessons. You can still use sine and cosine and tangent, or Pythagorean theorem if that is the information that you have. But these shortcuts make your life a whole lot easier when dealing with these special triangles. Okay, so let's take a look at some examples of 45, 45, 90. So let me get us lined up here. So then these will be for 45, 45, 90. Here's going to be my first one. Okay, let's say this here is my right angle. Let's say I tell you this is 45 degrees. And then let's come through and say actually let me give you one other bit of information. Let's say this here is 8, and we want to find x and y. Okay, so remember that in any triangle, they must sum to get you 180 degrees. If that's 90 and that's 45, well, 90 plus 45 is 135 degrees. What you're missing then in this gap is also 45 degrees, and that's happening automatically. So if you know two of the angles, you can automatically find the third by doing 180 minus. Or just know that if you already have a 45 and a 90, the other one has to be 45 as well. So we now know it's this type of pattern right here. This 8 is along one of the legs. Notice in our pattern, x and x, these two legs are the same. So x and 8, those two legs are the same. So x equals 8. Okay, take a look at y. Y is the hypotenuse. To come back up to my pattern up here, to get from the leg to the hypotenuse, I'm doing the leg times the square root of 2. So basically, we know that y equals x square root of 2, but we already know what x is. X is 8. So y is 8 square root of 2. So go ahead and box those two answers. X was 8, y was 8 times the square root of 2. Let's go ahead and do another one here. So let's get this one over here. Let me go ahead and separate these. Okay, this one's going to face upwards. Okay, let's say that's also a right angle. And again, maybe my drawing is not great. That happens. That's why I'm labeling it so you know what everything here is supposed to be. So I have 45, 45, 90. Let's say I tell you that this one up here is 5 square root of 2. And I want you to find the legs. Okay, and I made them both x because we know in a 45, 45, 90, the two legs are the same. Okay, now remember what we know about this. This is the hypotenuse. It is this one right here. So this 5 root 2 has to equal x root 2. Again, that's the pattern. X root 2 is the hypotenuse, so this here must be x root 2. I'm solving for x right now. Well, to do that, we're just going to go ahead and say, okay, divide both sides by the square root of 2. Your square root of 2's are gone. What are you left with? You are left with x equals 5. So now you know the two legs of that triangle are 5. Okay, so here are two examples of 45, 45, 90. Okay, let me go ahead and put down one for 30, 60, 90. Go ahead and switch up my colors here. Let's separate this and slide this up. Okay, so we're now putting down 30, 60, 90. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at this one right here. Let's say this is the 60, here's the 30, and that's the 90. I'm going to give you this one is a length of 9. These are degrees. And we want to find x and y. Okay, so notice that this 9 is opposite the 60 right here. Okay, so in order to find x, I've got to say 9 equals x root 3. What I'm going to be using is rationalizing. If you don't know what that means, go back to the previous video and watch rationalizing the denominators. So what I'm going to say is that 9 equals x root 3. Okay, again, x is that shortest side. It's opposite the 30. X root 3 equals the medium. X root 3 equals the medium. Go ahead and divide both sides by the square root of 3. And I'm going to go ahead and rewrite it so it looks a little bit nicer. Let's do that over here. So what I've got is x equals, and again, it's x equals because we just got rid of these root 3's. So right now I have x equals 9 over square root of 3. Now I'm going to rationalize. When you rationalize, this means I don't want to see a radical in the bottom. I'm going to multiply top and bottom by whatever radical was in that denominator. So top and bottom by root 3. Now go straight across. I have 9 root 3 on the top. On the bottom, remember radical times the exact same radical leaves whatever you had on the inside. Just a regular 3 on the bottom. So 9 radical 3 over 3, and I can simplify those outside numbers. 9 divided by 3 is just 3. What this means to us is that x is 3 root 3. And again, that's because 9 divided by 3 is 3. 3 times root 3 is what I'm left with here. So we found this value. We found that shortest side, x. Y is the hypotenuse. In terms of patterns, remember that y equals 2x. And we just found x. This is 2 times 3 root 3. That's just another way of saying multiplication. Just brackets, parentheses, whatever you want to use. When I do this, I'm just going to multiply together the two numbers on the outside. 2 times 3 gets me 6. So I'm going to be left with 6 root 3. So y equals 6 root 3. So those are my two answers, x and y. I'm going to go ahead and go through another example, and then I'll also give a couple of slightly more challenging examples so you can see other ways of working with this. Okay, so here's going to be another example of a 30, 60, 90. Come over here. Alrighty, let's go like this. There's my 90. This is my 30 degrees. Here's my 60 degrees. And let's say we know that the hypotenuse is 8. We want to come through now and find the values of x and y. Okay. Alrighty, well, remember that we're going to do this using those shortcuts. So 8 is my hypotenuse. I'm going to actually up in the corner here, I'm going to redraw the shortcuts so we know the two of them. So remember up here, here is the 45, 45, 91. That's x. That's x root 2. Here is the 30, 60, 91. Here's the 90. Here's the 30. X x root 3, 2x. That is a radical right there. Okay, so that's what we're dealing with. That matches our 30, 60, 90 sitting over there. So what we know is that to get from here to there, to get from the shortest side to the hypotenuse, we've got to multiply by 2. So what we're looking at here is that 8 equals 2x, which means that x is 4. Okay, x is 4. All right, well, to find y is the medium length side. It is opposite the 60, so it'll be opposite the 60 over here. To find that one, take the shortest side and multiply by root 3. Well, we found the shortest side. It's 4. So to get to y, it's just y equals 4 root 3. So that was an example given the hypotenuse. I'm going to put another one up. This time, I'm going to give the short. Okay, so here we go. Go right down below here. Here's the 90. Here's the 30 degrees. And let's see, given short. So let's say I give you this side is 10 root 3. And I want you to come through now. And I want you to find, let's say, x and y. Okay. So what we have here, again, this is the shortest side. In order to find the medium side, I'm going to multiply it by root 3. So again, to find the medium, right here, it's that shortest side times root 3. So in our case, x equals 10 root 3 times root 3. And I'm just showing that so you can see the two things are separate. If that's too confusing, it's okay. I'm going to rewrite it like this. 10 square root of 3 times the square root of 3. And remember, when I have radical times exact same radical, that just becomes 10 times 3. So I now have 30. X equals 30. So this medium side up here is 30. Let's go ahead and find the hypotenuse. Remember, to get the hypotenuse, that long side, I'm going to do 2 times the shortest side. This is my shortest side. So 2 times the shortest side, that'll get me y. Let's just keep, actually, yeah, I'm going to go down here. Never mind, I'm going to go across. So to do y, I have y equals 2 times 10 root 3. Again, when I'm doing that multiplying, the two whole numbers go together, 2 times 10. So y equals 20 square root of 3. That's what's happening in my 30, 60, 90. Okay, so I'm going to show 2 more examples right now. And these are maybe slightly more challenging versions, but it's the same general concepts. So the next one I'm going to put up is a 45, 45, 90. And here's my picture. It's my 90 degrees. There's my 45. And this time, let's say this is 5 root 3. Okay, so in my 45, 45, 90, remember that the hypotenuse is the sides times root 2. So I am trying to solve for these two right here. So what I know is that x root 2 equals 5 root 3. So x root 2 equals 5 root 3. Well, I'm going to go ahead and have to divide both sides by radical 2. And again, my job right now is to get x by itself, and the only way to do that is to divide by that root 2. So these here are now gone. I have x equals 5 root 3 over root 2, but I do want to rationalize this. Let me go ahead and try to zoom in here. And let's slide this over. There we go. When I rationalize, I do not care at all what's happening in the top. I'm going to multiply top and bottom by whatever radical was in the bottom. So let me switch colors here. Let's go ahead and multiply top and bottom by radical 2 over radical 2. Okay, so what I have now is 5 radical 6, because 3 times 2 is 6. And in the bottom, well, radical 2 times radical 2 is just 2. That is the value of x. X equals 5 root 6 over 2. Go ahead and box that answer. So again, that was a 45, 45, 90 that required rationalizing. Go ahead and slide this over here. Going to do the same thing for our 30, 60, 90. 30, 60, 90. Now I know I already had a rationalizing one earlier, but let's just give you guys some more practice. So here's the scenario. There's my 90. There's my 60 degrees. Let's say I'm going to start out with 9 root 5. And our job is to find x and y. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to say that x, which is our shortest side, remember that we automatically know that this here is our 30 degrees, because 30 plus 60 plus 90 gets us 180. So we're going to say x root 3 equals 9 root 5. So x radical 3 equals 9 radical 5. Again, those are from our shortcuts. The medium side, opposite the 60, is equal to the shortest times root 3. We've got to get x by itself. Divide both sides by radical 3. When I've done that, the radical 3's have canceled out on the left-hand side. I am left with x equals 9 radical 5 over radical 3. But I have to rationalize. I don't want to leave any radicals in the denominator. So I'm going to multiply top and bottom by that bottom radical. Square root of 3 on the top, square root of 3 on the bottom. So in the top, I have 9 square root of 15. In the bottom, I just have 3. Remember, radical 3 times radical 3 is just 3. I'm almost done, but not quite yet, and that's because I can simplify this. 9 is divisible by 3. What I get out is 3 radical 15. That will be the value of x. So let me write that down here. X equals 3 radical 15. And let me go ahead and box that. That is a radical as well. Let me go and make that look a little bit nicer at the bottom there. Little square root there. Okay. All right, so we found this one here. To get from that shortest side of the hypotenuse, just take this and multiply by 2. So let's go ahead and work off to the side right here. We know that y equals 2x. And I know x. So this is 2 times 3 radical 15. 2 times 3 is 6. So y equals 6 times the square root of 15. Okay, so you now have the two challenge problems of the 45, 45, 90 and the 30, 60, 90. Go ahead and flip back to the front. So again, all this boils down to these two shortcuts here. I encourage you to use them. However, it's also true that you can still find those missing sides by using sine, cosine, and tangent. But this shortcuts that time significantly. Alrighty, so that's all I have on special right triangles. I'll have 2 other videos for you to watch up on Edpuzzle from another YouTube channel, and then I have some activities for you guys to try. So we are done with special right triangles.